Well, it only took me forever to get that figured out, how to flip the screen around so I can see myself seeing you, talking to you. We are officially going to kick off the 608 Fab Facebook page, Instagram, and YouTube channel. So for the last year and a half, I've been working on what I have officially decided to call Project Burn Pile. I don't really like the name because I'm afraid with that kind of name, ultimately it'll burn into the ground in a pile of garbage. However, I like the name because a simple low-budget project turned into burning a pile of cash. So for the last year and a half, I have been working on this 1986 CJ, and it was built probably in the 90s is my guess. Air shocks in the rear, horrible 3-link wishbone rear, and leaf springs in the front. Nothing too fancy. 307 Chevy that had all the bearings knocked out of it. A T176 Trans Dana 300. All that was actually in really good working order. However, I sold that all off for Chevy drivetrain because that's what I'm familiar with, and I wanted an auto. But slowly but surely, I've been picking my way through this thing. It started out on 10-bolt front end with 456 gears. Gears were shot and literally just blown apart. Whoever had put them in the last time didn't even put a shim in it. So pretty much the first time I moved the thing, it blew the ring gear off of it. Rear end was a semi-float 14-bolt out of a van by the looks of it. I did a disc brake conversion. I put a limited slip in the front. I was running 37s and re-geared it, of course, to some 456s in the first winter, and replaced a whole bunch of framework that was rotted out underneath the thing. Built a fresh 350 Chevy for it, which in hindsight was a horrible idea. I looked at budget for doing an LS swap, and geez, that's out of my budget. Well, it had been 20 years since I had built a small block Chevy for $1,500, and that turned into, my lord, I could have just LS swapped this with a 5.3 out of a junkyard. So hindsight 2020, if you're thinking about putting a carbureted old school small block in something, just buy an LS. At the cost of machine work and parts, components, and everything else I needed, distributor, carburetor, I mean, everything on this old 307 was clap worn out. If you're in that predicament, buy an LS. Do a 5.3 or a 4.8 or a 6-liter swap out of a Chevy truck. You can pick those motors up way cheap and take the rest of that $3,000 or $4,000 I spent on the motor job and do the computers and the EFI and the fuel pumps and all that garbage. So then had a Turbo 350 built up by a local guy, real reputable guy. That turned into a nightmare. Someday I'll go over that. Not a nightmare on the behalf of his abilities as an excellent transmission shop, but on the abilities of the parts we were able to get, the quality of parts, because it was getting built during COVID, and the company that built the reverse manual valve body had misoriented some parts and plates, and things weren't jiving, and more or less when you'd hit third gear, it'd slam itself between two gears and lock the tires up. So after months of dealing with that, sorting that out, and the supplier of the valve body not standing up for what they do, I've got a functional transmission. Did an NP205, and we ran it for most of the last year like that. Flip forward, winter project number 2, I went in and did a legit 1-ton swap, Dana 60, full float 14-bolt. I got rid of the wishbone 3-link. Oh, we gotta get on the brakes. Got rid of the wishbone 3-link and did a legit 4-link in the back. I'll show you guys kind of what I did there. After I was real nervous about doing that and sorting out the geometry, but Ian Johnson from, what is it, Gearhead Garage, or I can't even think of his YouTube channel. I've been following him since I was like 12, I think, and he put it in real layman, simple terms, they're not race cars, they're off-road buggies, and you can look at all the geometry in the world that you want, but then when you throw that thing at a 30-degree angle and tuck a tire up into a fender well and contort the thing into a big pile of garbage out on a trail somewhere, you throw all the geometry away. So it's not a race car running on a road course or anything like that. So just bolt something together, articulate it, see how it works, and adjust from there. So that's what I did, and my God, I've only had it out once. It works just fine. So if I was a better driver and things like that, maybe I would notice some inconsistencies in what it's doing when it's doing it, but I also haven't had a chance to really play with it hard. So yeah, don't fret it. Just lay it all out, make sure nothing binds, and burn some stuff together and make it work. So I listened to him, and then also this winter when I did the 60 in the front, I did well, it's not a reverse shackle or a shackle reversal. I did slider boxes, so solid mounted the front of the spring and then did slider boxes at the rear mount rather than shackles. That allowed me to get a lower profile on the chassis to drop the ride height, because whoever built it 20 whatever years ago, it was really tall, really top heavy. So fast forward a little bit further, or actually rewind a little bit, and our last trip out last year was at S'more, and what spurred the 1-ton swap was really a bent leaf spring, which I didn't know you could bend a leaf spring. I'll put a video up or a photo of that someday. But with the shackles in the front and the springs fixed at the rear on the front axle, when you smoke a rock with the differential, it actually pushed the spring backwards, and the mount didn't fail. The spring bent at a 90-degree angle. How it didn't break, I have no idea. So I got an instant 5-inch lift kit on that side of the Jeep. We limped it back to the trailer and called Thanksgiving weekend at S'more in the books. So I did that. We did full crossover steering on it at that point in time. I am currently on a 40-inch. I did a tire upgrade too, so a 40, 16, 17 LTB Swamper. And that has turned into, with the spool in the front axle and everything engaged, Phil can't turn the wheels. Disconnect one hub, because I'm still running hubs, selectable hubs on it. Disconnect one of those and you can turn just fine, but when you lock everything up, you can't turn. So the next piece of the puzzle is full hydro steer from PSC. I found out through the company I work for, I can actually get really good deals on PSC stuff through one of our distributors. So I'm not looking to be selling that product yet through the business I work for, but once I sort out some details on that, I think I'll post up some links and probably do some advertisement to get guys good deals on PSC stuff, because obviously I got it at my cost, which was really cheap. So that's the next project. To kick this channel off, over the last 2 years, I've been actually working up at my place of employment doing the fab work and the modifications on this Jeep. I've been blessed over the last 20 years to be able to use and utilize the materials and the tools and a shop bay for the businesses I've worked for. Well, I still have that opportunity, but when you finally have full staff and the business is going like gangbusters, I am not lucky enough to be able to leave my Jeep in a bay for 6 weeks and wrench on stuff. That bay is needed to make money for the business, so I personally kicked myself out. And I've been blessed also in that respect that my father-in-law's got a little garage shop that nobody was using at a rental property of his, and he allowed me to move into that for more or less the cost of mowing the grass, which that's pretty slick. So it's not set up yet 100%, not even 20%. I've got a whole bunch of tooling I've collected over the years to move into it and things like that, but I wanted to start this hydraulic steering project for our first wheeling trip, and I figured after a year and a half of working on this thing, I would start documenting what I did. I'm going to ultimately backtrack and show what I did prior to this, probably do photos and explanations and walk-arounds on specific key areas of it. The biggest thing, obviously, everybody can figure out how to do a 4-link and a small block swap and things of that nature. But the biggest kicker I want to highlight is the front slider boxes. When I did that, I mean, you can find a lot of slider box stuff on Dodge cars. It seems like in the rear suspension, maybe it's a drag racer trick or something along those lines. The only person I could find anywhere was Bleepin' Jeep on his, I think, Command Jeep or whatever he calls it, and he had done slider boxes on the front. Sadly, there wasn't a great explanations about it because I think he, a lot like myself, couldn't find a lot of info on how to do it, so we were just kind of running with it. You know, the idea's there, the functionality's there, but how he set his up, I mean, he's got a spot in there where he's got everything on jack stands and blocks of wood, and he's got his front spring mounts screwed to like a log. I mean, it's pretty legit on how I did it as well, but watching him do it in a real crude fashion, which high five for him, he nailed it. I took that a couple steps further forward, and when I was laying it out, and I'm going to be able to walk through the explanation of how I did what I did and where I've missed. It's not 100%, but Lord knows it's functional, and I am not tearing it back apart. So sooner or later, I'm going to kind of sit down and go through that as well. But to kick things off, we're going to delete the crossover steering. We're going to delete the steering box, and I'm going to put the least expensive full hydro steer kit in that I was able to find, and we'll go from there.